Latanya, did you know it's possible to have a successful marriage even in ministry?
Did you know that if you don't have balance in ministry, sometimes it can affect the marriage?
I do. It can lead to divorce. And on today's show, we'll talk about marriage, ministry, and divorce. And hopefully we help someone to save their marriage. And welcome back to In the Know. Today we are continuing such a good topic of marriage, ministry, and divorce. We started out off already in the first broadcast talking about the importance of communication and importance of understanding our spouses and some of the pitfalls that could happen in marriage or that could lead to divorce. And on today, as I mentioned in the first broadcast, we're going to talk more about not only marriage, not only ministry, but what happens that does lead to divorce and what you can do after divorce happens. And once again, welcome to my co-host, Latanya Moore.
Well, greetings. Good to be here with you again and to talk about marriage, ministry, and divorce.
Yeah, and the good thing about it for you, you've been married for over 30 years, right? Or at 30 years.
30 years this year.
This year. And with that, even just for you, I mean, 30 years, and it hasn't always been good.
Absolutely not.
But you guys have made it.
We have made it, and it's by the grace of God. And you know, one of the things, I've been married pretty much the whole time I've been in ministry. I've been married, and so I find this to be a great topic because I could be a part of the divorce part of the stats. And so it's taken wisdom, particularly being a woman in ministry. And I just want to, you know, somewhere along the lines, encourage women who are in ministry or who are, you know, directors and executives. I mean, you know, we say that is my ministry, to take care of your spouse, to take care of your home, to take care whether you have children or not, but to take care of your home and remain engaged. And I think that's one of the important things for me.
Yeah, and balance.
Yes,
We talked about
and
balance,
balance,
all of
yes.
those things. And unfortunately, that's not my story.
Oh.
We didn't make it. But in that, I found it. I was talking recently, and I shared recently. I said, I'm grateful for my divorce. Now, let me say this: I'm not grateful because the woman, you know, we divorced or anything like that. I'm grateful for what I learned in divorce, if that helps understand. Because divorce is not good for anyone. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good experience. It can really hurt, and it can really be something that causes you to either walk away from God or draw closer to God. And in my case, I drew closer. But in that, I found myself talking to other men and even married couples and saying, this is what divorce looks like if you do not handle the situations the right way.
Exactly.
So in that, it's been one of those things for me where I found myself starting to share where I messed up. I cannot say anything about the woman per se because I don't know how she feels about, and I'm not going to put her on Front Street, if you will, saying she was I can't say that because it takes two to get in that position. So I found myself beginning to share about, okay, this is where I messed up. This is what I wish I would have done differently. This is what I wish I would have done more of. And a lot of times it causes us to miss out on things because we don't handle situations right.
Exactly. You know, we talked about the balance piece. We talked about sharing each other's interests and our likes. We talked about not putting the ministry before the marriage and all these things. Tell me this, just in sharing with, I know we've talked offline as well, but as well as just sharing with the viewers, what are some of the things as you begin to say, hey, something shifted? What are some of the things that, even in hindsight, that you believe you should have done when you felt the shift?
one of the things that I believe I should have done was listened carefully, listened more, and observed the very thing you're saying. Observe the shift taking place, because when the shift takes place, a lot of times you ignore it and you're like, oh, that's just the devil. Sometimes it's not the devil. Sometimes it's situations that happen, and your spouse may be crying out for help, but you don't know how to handle the situation or how to answer the cry. So, as we said before, I ignored it, and instead of getting help, I just let it linger and let it come to a place where it became cancerous. And when it became cancerous, instead of getting help, I was too prideful to say, hey, I need help here. And before I knew it, everything was just chaotic.
Exactly. You know, and a lot of times I do find that we are prideful,
Yeah.
or we do the I don't want anybody in my business.
Yes, that was one of
Yes.
the biggest things.
I don't want anyone to know, or which is still with the pride piece, but
Yes.
I don't want anyone in my business. We're gonna, work it out. We're gonna walk this out. And I found myself calling those that have been there, done that longer than me. I find myself, because
Yeah.
of the years, I'm okay with calling the older generation now, because that's who's been married longer than us, to say, hey, wait a minute, where are we in this? What should this look like at this point in our marriage? We're aged. I mean, we're still young,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
aging.
Yeah.
So there are factors that come up and come along with just aging and being married, with whether it's intimacy, whether it's time, whether it's even taking time to get dressed. It's like, my
Yeah.
gosh, what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And so these are things that we do need to pay attention to. And we're so busy doing the activities. We're so busy moving about that we don't still ourselves enough to know, what does it look like when it's quiet? When we quiet the noise, what actually is my spouse experiencing? But when we see that shift, it's very important that we reach out. We used to say, I was a part of a cell group years ago, you don't have any business.
Yeah.
You don't have any business. Your dishes, you left bowls in your sink just like I did. At one point in time, somebody's going to call your house about your child. When they get old enough, they're going to skip a class.
Yeah.
So, these are not strange activities. And I'm saying all that to say they're not strange activities. The disconnect or the feel of the shift, it's not strange. Other people have been there, done that. People cannot be married. You're married for so long. I don't care if you're married for 2 weeks, you start to feel like, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
And particularly for people that have invested years in marriage, and they have what we see is a successful marriage. Reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out to them.
Yeah.
We've experienced it.
And I think that was one of the biggest problems, because what happened was you preach, and what people see on the outside is not always what it is on the inside. Preaching and, going home and things are not good at home, arguing and all of these things. And you put a facade and a mask up because you don't want anyone to think that you're failing at marriage or you're failing in your personal life because you're preaching and you have a good word and all of
Yes.
these things. But like I hear people say, you're a public success, but a private failure. And so what happens is you keep the facade going, knowing that things at home are not so grand and so great, and you don't know who to reach out to because you feel like, okay, if I reach out to this one, I'm gonna be judged. If I reach out to that one, my business may get out. So what happens is you come to a place and a point where you just suffer in silence.
Right. That's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but it happens.
It's true. It's
It
true.
happens. A lot of married people, not just in ministry, but more so, I believe, in ministry than in just the secular world, suffer in silence because we feel like we're supposed to have it all together, not realizing that we're human just like everybody else.
Exactly. And again, just going back to that pride piece and having people around you that you can talk to. One of the things we're talking, one of the things that you were at Victoria's life.
Yes.
In the process of the divorce.
Yes.
People didn't know you were going through a divorce.
Yes.
And it's one of those, and I'm saying that because we have to have those places and those people in our lives where that will cover.
Yes.
That do
Most
know.
definitely.
And does everyone need to know? Absolutely not.
Right.
But when we're going through, there needs to be that safe place. And I'm like, man, and when I start to think about it, I'm like, a couple people have come through that have divorced. It's not, of course, I'm still married, so it's not like anything that as far as the house that, that I condone.
Right.
But it has to be a place where, you can cry out and that you're still covered and that you can still be respected as one that ministers, as one that, as a leader, and that's very important. I think that, like you said, that's why a lot of people don't come forth, because it's like, oh, they're going to think I'm a certain way, or they're going to take away, they're not going to respect the, as we call it, they're not going to respect my anointing or my gift. And we have to understand, like you said, we're human. After the lights go out, man, I'm telling you, and I mean the stage lights, when the stage lights go out, it is so important to remain in touch with your family and your spouse. And, we talked about preaching, and we preach to the lost, and we declare what the Lord says. But then when we get home, you mentioned on the last broadcast, I want a spouse. We don't go home and keep preaching. We go home and we pop popcorn, and we spoon, and we Netflix and chill, and and we get out in our yards. And so if we are just so inundated with who the public sees us as, man, I'm telling you, we can be private failures, and it's a bad place to be.
And I think for me, after some time, because one of the frustrations was, you give all of this to the people, you give all of this to the people, you give all of this to the people, and what about me?
Yes.
To the point of people give you all of this accolades, all of this attention, all of these things. When you're in public, hey, prophet this, and you all of this stuff. And I had to come to realize, and there came a time when I realized that, I told her, and it was a little late, but I said, and when I realized it, the gift, the people are in love with the gift.
With the gift.
The people are in love with the gift. The gift is for the body. But as a man, I'm for you.
Exactly.
And we have to be able to differentiate between the two, knowing that the people that love you in public they give you accolades. Once you get home, your phone is not ringing.
Absolutely not.
Your phone is not ringing. Your phone is not, you don't get all those messages unless, hey, can you come preach? All of that, but it stops. And sometimes we misunderstand the difference between the two, that the gift is for the body, but I'm your husband or I'm your wife, and I need to be able to do so and be able to balance and conduct myself accordingly.
Exactly.
So it causes a problem.
Exactly. So much can, wow.
Yeah.
A lot can be said. Can I talk to my sisters for a minute? Because a lot of us, as a woman in ministry, and you said a lot, and it just took me through I guess a whole day or a week of ministry. And here's the thing for me particularly, how does it work? Is because number one, when I'm finished ministering, guess what? My phone goes on silent. And these are just some tips for those who are busy. And you say, I'm not in ministry, but you're so inundated, and what you do is your ministry, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a business owner. Listen, there's quiet time on my phone. You're not getting through. If your last name is not like Moore, and we didn't birth you out and feed you from as an infant, you're not gonna get through on my telephone. Why? Because my husband's important. My time is important. Whether we're just sitting there, there's things that need to be done in the home. Do that. What you do under the anointing, like you said, people love the gift, and it's very important to do what God calls you to do, because He gives you the grace to do it. When God gives you a grace to do something, there's a grace on your life that anointed is there, but He enables you to do it so that you don't have to do it in your flesh, so that you're not so tired that when that moment is over, because you did a lot of stuff in your flesh, there's still some time for your family. And I think that's very key, that our pride is in check, because we're so busy trying to be important. We're so busy trying to get extra engagements. We're so busy trying to be internet pastors and apostles. We're so inundated with ministry. And a lot of it is a work of the flesh. It makes you tired, and you have nothing left for your household. And that's one of the beginnings, because we're talking about marriage, ministry, and divorce, that you're so inundated with trying to be popular that there's nothing left, and you're no longer popular with your family at all. Absolutely.
And we're building an empire, or building up a big old conglomerate of ministries, this, all of that. And what happens is, you're not, like you said, you're not spending time away from ministry, because everything is ministry surround, and that's not the way it should be. I told a couple recently, I said, because they were in a tough place, and I said, it's okay to take a weekend away. The church is still going to be there when you come back. Ministry work is still going to be there when you come back. All of these things are still going to be there, but you need to get away. Sometimes you just have to get away and reset, recalibrate, whatever. Just spend time away from ministry. Just forget about it, even if it's just for a weekend, even if it's for 2 or 3 days during the week. Get away, because ministry is going to be there. I heard a preacher say something, and I'm living it now, because he said that his wife said, I can't do this anymore. Ministry was still there, but his wife was gone. She left because he had put ministry in front of, and a lot of times that's what happens, is that ministry can end up taking precedence over everything else. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a work to do.
Yes.
But there's also a balance that should be in that. And a lot of times I gotta go here, it's okay to say no. I learned that. It's okay to say no.
I perfected it.
Yeah. No, I got things to do with my, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. There was a couple of years ago, my son played football. And while he was playing football on Friday nights, I didn't take anything because I wanted to support my son and wanted to be there for him. And even it's okay to, if and you're, like you said earlier, one of you may be in corporate or in whatever, and then the other one is ministry. It's okay to say, no, I'm not gonna do this ministry engagement. I'm gonna support my spouse. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, no, I'm going to support my kids. Ministry, your kids are falling by the wayside while you're running behind somebody else's kids.
Exactly.
So it comes a point where you have to know your balances and know where your loyalties lie, because there are things that I wish I would have done. There were times I wish I would have said no. There are times I wish I would have said, nah, that's okay. Let's me and you go, and everything will still be here.
Exactly. One of the things that I found, how do you know when to not take an engagement? I want to just encourage you in this as well. How do you know when to say no? If your family, your spouse, particularly your spouse, your children, and those within your immediate circle that you're actually doing life with, if there's a one-time engagement, you cannot get that back, because I found a lot of people will take an engagement. You don't take an engagement over the banquet that's not going to happen anymore. You don't take the engagement over the prom. You don't take the engagement over homecoming, over events that are special, and they're one-time events. Our middle son played basketball from, I guess 4. Those games become, especially if they're inundated in that sport, those games become so often. They're 3 times a week. They're every week, and they're forever. We have 20 years of basketball. Can I afford to just miss a regular game? Yes. Am I going to miss senior night? Absolutely not. Am I going to miss the championship game? Absolutely not. But so those things that are recurring there all the time. 1 or 2 here and there, and by the Holy Ghost you would know. But I'm not missing prom. I'm not missing those. I'm not missing my husband's award ceremonies. I'm not missing my children's award ceremonies. I'm not missing those special occasions. And a lot of us really need to know when to say no, and it's going to be okay, because I'm not going to miss life events for my family for your 2-hour event. If there's absolutely, that's not considered a conflict as it relates to me. So it's not a conflict. There's absolutely, hands down. As it relates to ministry, you got to know what God said. And he says, listen, you have a certain amount of time and a lot of time to do that, and we need to figure that out. And if what God called you to do, as you see, and you say, well, my spouse isn't in, then you need to, by the grace of God, by the wisdom of God, as time progresses and things grow and change, then you start allotting 30 minutes or an hour and checking with your family, because your family should not be destroyed because you have to spend 5 hours on this one ministry activity. And as time changes, then you allot, I can give another hour perhaps. Or, my husband's taking a class, I'll do that. I'm gonna share this. I used to tell women, listen, with the fasting, because we were in the military, if your husband's in the field all the time, fast when he's gone.
Yeah, perfect time to fast.
You don't wait till he comes back after being gone for 3 weeks on a business trip to start fasting. And these are the things that we really miss, even as women of God. Oh, I'm fasting. The Lord's calling me to fast. He's been gone for 3 weeks. And the truth of the matter is, if we're really talking ministry, then there's a need, intimacy is needed at that point. And you don't wait until he gets back to start fasting. You fast while he's away.
Yeah. And it makes things so much easier.
Yes.
Because you understand, again, balance.
Balance. There's a balance.
And when your husband is in need, you know how to handle the situation because of that. And it's also along the lines of your husband being gone. You don't take a ministry engagement when your husband comes back.
Exactly.
He needs your attention.
Exactly.
You know, he needs to, he wants his wife. But you have 3 weeks to do all, or whatever, however long. You
Exactly.
can do it then. You don't wait till your husband comes back and then you want to go out again and stuff like that. So it's a lot along those lines of doing those things. So, you know, in ministry and marriage, it's not easy. It's not easy because, but I think it's easy. Let me say it like this. I think it's easier than we make it out to be, because some of the teachings that we are taught makes us feel like if we're not doing God, nothing else is not right.
Yes.
But God ordained marriage
Yes, he
before He called for a church.
Yes.
And you know, He said, "Man, it's not good for man to be alone." So forth, so on. All the preachers know that stuff. But He called for marriage before He called. So it's our job to be unified and to have that covenant together before we get into anything else. And a lot of times we don't understand that because our loyalties, we feel like we're cheating on God. I'm gonna use that if we do the other stuff first.
Exactly, and and like you said, we're taught to do all these things and negate our obligations, you know, in the marriage. And I mean, we'll have people, if they don't get right, particularly from the women's perspective, if they don't get right, we can pray them off. And no, my obligation is to my.
That's funny. That's funny. I don't mean it.
We
It's
do.
so funny. It's so funny you said that. I had a thought, and I thought it before. It's funny how you want to pray my husband off, but you gonna lay up with yours.
Yeah, exactly.
You better go lay up with yours and everything else.
Exactly.
You know,
you will come into covenant. We can pray him. If he's not gonna do right,
Right.
we can pray him off. as you're telling me this as you're fixing your husband's plate.
Come
on.
He
We're
the
not-
devil. You
yes.
prayed your husband that joke and drink
Yes.
everything else. You prayed him until he got right and everything
Yes,
else. But
indeed.
you want to get rid of
Get
mine.
rid of mine.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I've heard those things, and we have to watch people that come against our marriage, and that's just the truth. It's like, if he's not, if he can't get any good right, we'll pray him off. It's like,
Right.
absolutely not, to further devastate my family.
Yeah,
I'm not in
yeah.
danger. My children aren't in danger. I'm not being abused in any type of way, whether it's physically, emotionally, whatever the case may be. I don't have any biblical cause or reason to separate. No, we're not praying him off. I like him a little bit. I mean, and you take that and you give that to God, and not just just so inundated with so many things. Tell me this. I have a question. How would you advise someone, particularly a young man in ministry, young or old, in ministry, to include? You say, well, my spouse doesn't feel like you call, because you have a lot of women who are just like, I'm here. I'm just absolutely here. How would you advise to incorporate the spouse that says, I didn't marry a preacher. I didn't marry somebody that's all of a sudden just inundated with ministry, and I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just here. How do you incorporate a spouse that says that?
Well, first of all is understanding the call, and making sure, again, going back to the communication part. But at the same time, as the preacher or the called one, if you will, helping them to feel comfortable in the settings. Because a lot of times preachers, when we get together, we can forget about those around us and exclude instead of including and bringing them closer and helping them to just basically bringing them closer. They may not even want to say anything,
Exactly.
but just bring them closer as a man. Because you can become the center of attention all around you. But if you keep your wife close and make her feel comfortable, and just knowing, hey, I'm glad you're here, even though you don't understand, and doing a recap of, okay, this is what it looked like, this is what's going on, but it's staying in constant communication and giving a constant understanding of, this is what it's going on, this is what it's looking like, this is what it's feeling like. So that way you won't have the rifts and you won't have the problems and discord when you go home. And it's almost like protecting them in that and say, hey, this is my wife. I don't, and I'm protecting her. And you don't have to be a lord over her, but letting her, hey, I got you. I want you here with me. Making them feel comfortable
Exactly.
in the whole thing.
Exactly, because I found being the called one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, here's the question. Oh, what is their husband? Does he preach? You know, he has his own set of gifts.
Yeah.
His own strengths, his own contributions to the body. And so I'm the one that's the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, like you said, not making them feel uncomfortable, but making them feel comfortable,
Yeah.
and that they have their own contribution to give, and that is important. And we said before in the previous broadcast about when it's all over, we want a spouse.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that's who our spouses are, just that, to minister to us, not necessarily. And here's the other thing. Oh, they have to be a certain rank per se, or a certain
Right,
title, and they have to be the part of the Ephesians 4, the ecclesiastical gifts, the governmental gifts, in order for you to even say hello. And so when that moment is over, nope. I need a spouse. I desire a spouse. I want a spouse, and they spouse well.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to lay my head.
They spouse well.
Believe it or not, some of them, what I love about it, what I liked about it was they don't always want to talk church.
Definitely not.
They don't always want, and that's okay.
That's awesome.
That's I want to talk about these blinds. I want to talk about.
I want to go to Lowe's.
Right. So it brings about that balance
Yes.
that's necessary.
It's
and,
necessary.
And just this tidbit, celebrate what they are able to do in the kingdom.
Yes.
Celebrate what they are, the gifts they do have. Celebrate those.
Yes.
Because they're all needed.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's very important that we need to know, because again, we talk about ministry, marriage, and divorce, and when we don't have that balance, we'll find ourselves flipping those things around, and we'll do ministry first, is marriage, ministry, and divorce, but we'll find ourselves doing ministry and not doing marriage, and end up in divorce. So we're just talking about things that prevent that as we go about doing ministry and doing what God called us to do, and some tips and a laugh or two, and that's just where we are.
Yeah, and I know we're running. God, I wish we had more time.
More time.
I want to add this because we're running out of time. One thing I want to encourage you to do as married couples: seek wisdom.
Yes.
Seek counseling. It's okay. I wish I would have done more of that. Sought more counsel. Don't wait till it's too late to seek counsel. But what you do is start counseling now. Go to seminars.
Yes.
Go to conferences. Read the books on With All That Getting Understanding. Read the books. All of these things that it takes to help your marriage to grow. Don't let it die if it's not possible. Just marriage. Focus on your marriage. Spend time in these different things, and I promise you, you'll see it grow. You'll see it blossom. You'll see it prosper in all of those things.
Exactly. And you know what else? Find an activity that you and your spouse
Yes.
share together,
Yes.
that you do together, that everyone else is not invited. It's great to be around other couples, but find something that's what you all do, that you share to keep the communication and the fun. You talked about different conferences, and have fun as well, and enjoy one another.
Most definitely. Last few seconds, I just want to encourage you guys. Hey, there is life. For those of you that are going through divorce and have been divorced, there is life after divorce. There is life after divorce. So be encouraged.
Yeah.
Latanya, once again,
We're in the know.
know.